Doing well, welcome to the FPL Fan Game Week 5 deadline live. Once again, I do apologise for being late as always, but I am here now for the next hour answering any questions that you do have. Now, of course, it's a bit of an early one, 8:30 UK time. We have about 3 hours, 2.5 hours until that Game Week 5 deadline. So loads of time for you to answer any of your questions that you have. I can see Immortal Technique in the chat. Hope you're doing well, mate. Just want to see if there are some regulars in here. We have Spurs fan. Hello. Should I start Areola or Onana? Both have hard fixtures. Of those two right now, I think I would favour Onana and really do hope that Man United actually get that act together. Personally, I don't see a West Ham clean sheet. I might be wrong, but for me, I would go for Onana and just pray that they actually do get a result in that fixture, although Brighton obviously are a fantastic team. Again, guys, if you are new around here and you do enjoy the content, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and dropping a like on the live stream. We always aim for 50 likes on the live streams. You guys have done that every single time. It'd be amazing if we could do the same once again. And as I said, I've also gone for an audacious attempt of trying to get 10,000 subscribers before the Game Week 5 deadline. Now, we're a little bit close. Well, we're quite far away, 150. If we could get a few new faces on board ahead of this deadline, that'd be amazing. But look, this is the opportunity for you guys to ask any questions that you have going into this deadline. And of course, I will be answering them throughout this live stream. You don't have to wait until the end. Please put them in and I'll answer them as we progressively go through. So Brainspace saying, who is the best Newcastle defenders to go for? Do you reckon Trippier is too expensive? Okay, so right now, looking at the defenders, none of them are actually offering loads of value right now. Newcastle haven't been amazing, but it's worth noting that the underlying numbers for Newcastle aren't as bad as what the actual output have been. So they've conceded a few goals, but the numbers defensively are still looking good. So I think Newcastle defensively is still an absolutely fine buy for your teams. Now, Botman's trained all week. I think at 4.5 million, he is the value pick. But at 2 million more, I don't think there's any debate that Trippier is the better FPL option if he was to continue week in, week out. My main worry for Newcastle is the introduction of Champions League and, of course, the EFL Cup the following midweek. So basically, Newcastle are going to get in a situation where they're going to be Game Week 5, Champions League, Game Week 6, EFL Cup, Game Week 7, Champions League. And for those that don't know, Newcastle have a ridiculously hard Champions League group. And the Newcastle team is quite thin as it is, especially defensively. They are one injury away from starting Lascelles and Fabian Schär together week in, week out, which is going to be an absolute disaster. So, yes, I do think Trippier is the way to go if you have the money available to you. We're not really struggling for money this season, but I would just say I'm a little bit hesitant about the Newcastle defence just because of the ridiculous fixture schedule that they have coming up. FPL Noak saying, how would your ideal wildcard look if you're bench boosting in Game Week 7? Okay, so that's a little bit of a difficult one off the cuff. I would have to do a little bit of thought about that, mate. So I might come back to that one, only because I don't want to be giving you a team that I don't actually believe in. But right now, I think I would struggle to build one off the top of the dome. So I will have a little think about it, mate, and come back to that one. I do apologise. David, I don't have Spurs midfield assets. Should I bring in Son for Rashford, Bruno or Saka? I also have Martinelli and Mbuemo, but can transfer those due to budget restrictions or just roll the free transfer. Okay, so you're in this position right now where you have double Man United and you also have double Arsenal. I personally would rather move away from double Arsenal than double Man United as we speak. Looking at the Arsenal fixtures right now, they have got Everton away, obviously, then Spurs, Bournemouth, Man City, Chelsea. Not the best long-term fixtures. And when we compare that to somebody like a Man United's fixtures over the same run are Brighton, Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield United. So I would rather you move away from Arsenal rather than Man United. Do I like the sale of Bukayo Saka? Absolutely not. So if I had to pick one of those midfielders that you mentioned, I probably would sell Saka knowing that you have Martinelli in your team. Do Saka to a Spurs midfielder if you really want to go there. Son would be the preference then. But again, I think you could perfectly roll the transfer, but not having any Spurs investment this week is going to be a bit of a worry for you. You might have to sleep behind a sofa this week. Alex, like and subscribe. Yes, guys, if you are enjoying the stream, please do consider hitting that like button. As I said, we always aim for 50 likes on the stream. If you can do that, we'll be absolutely sick. Sam, morning, mate. Hope you're doing well. And again, guys, do not hesitate to put your questions in the chat. This is the opportunity to do so. We don't get obviously like the thousands and thousands of views on these kind of live streams, so hopefully this is a chance for you where you might not get them answered on the bigger streams. Hopefully this is your chance to get those kind of questions answered on these streams. I promise I will answer them. Bristol is saying, can I sell Foden for Son or should I focus on my defense? So again, it's going to depend on who your defense actually is. But for me, I think selling Foden this week isn't a priority because, of course, in game week 6, they have Nottingham Forest at home, which is an amazing fixture. But who do I prefer this week in isolation, Foden or Son? The answer would be Son. So it depends on what kind of strategy you're going for. Super Saf saying, who should I transfer in for Mitrovic? He is... So you have 7.4 million available and you have Mitrovic in your team, which is quite interesting. So in terms of the forwards right now, realistically, I think you have a few options. You either go all the way down to Luton's Morris, who doubles in game week 7. I know he's not the most glamorous pick, but he is a good option long-term for your team and he covers you off for the double game week. I like Alvarez at Man City if you're happy to take that potential Pep roulette, which we all know is an issue. Darwin Núñez is a little bit of a risk, but I think his upside is really big. Outside of that, realistically, you're not going to be buying Nicholas Jackson. So I think the answer is either Alvarez or you go for Morris at Luton and you save some money in the bank. That would be the route I would go for. Warmax is saying, am I right to have triple Aston Villa and triple Spurs? Triple Spurs this week looks amazing. I assume you have Udogie, Madison and Son. If that's the case, that's a brilliant triple up. And triple Aston Villa, I think it's going to be a real good differential this week. If you're sat there with Watkins, Matty Cash and someone else, I think that's perfectly fine this week. I think it's a good fixture, especially with Crystal Palace having no guy available in defence. That is going to be a big thing and probably favour Aston Villa this week. Oliver saying start Gvardiol or a Stupinan. So I think Gvardiol is a little bit 50-50 whether he starts between him and Ake, and a Stupinan I think will start, but of course has had the international duties away. So realistically, I think Man City are better for the clean sheet, but I don't really know Gvardiol's minutes. Estupinan probably will concede, but we know he has attacking potential. And of course, he also does offer clean sheet potential, maybe. I probably would go for Gvardiol and just pray that he starts. Freddie, hey man, rolling the transfer is valid, right? Yes, I think rolling the transfer this week is a perfectly fine move. I don't think anybody needs to worry about that. For me, and I'm going to bring it up on the screens right now, the reason why I think rolling your transfer is a good move if you don't want to go for the Spurs assets because you already have them, this is why I really do like it. The introduction of European football between game weeks 5 and 6. This is going to be big. So you see the teams on your screen here. Champions League, Europa League, Conference League for those teams. And we all have big investment in those assets. So I think rolling your transfer in game week 5 to have 2 in game week 6 means that you're going to have an idea who plays in game week 5 first and foremost, because the team that gets picked in game week 5 might be different to the team that plays in the European Cup competitions. So for example, if Alvarez was to play for Man City in game week 5, he then doesn't play in their midweek fixture in the Champions League, we could assume that Alvarez is a good option for game week 6. So having those 2 free transfers means that if you want to go for a 1 week punt on those Man City options, you definitely can do so. And of course, with certain squads having their first interaction of European football, like Aston Villa, like Brighton, for example, we don't really know how their squad is going to rotate. So again, we can adapt to that with 2 free transfers. And again, any injuries that do happen over this period, we have the opportunity to be flexible with our free transfer. Now, it's worth noting, I'm not saying everybody needs to roll their transfer, but I think it's a good week to do so. If you are sat there thinking, I don't really want to buy a Spurs midfielder and I don't really feel inclined to make any other move, then this is a good week to roll that free transfer. And that is the main reason being just because of the introduction of European Cup football. Yuki saying, is Nicholas Jackson a sell if he doesn't perform this week? Potentially. They are going to be at home against Aston Villa in game week 6, and we need to remember that Aston Villa will be playing midweek in European Cup football. So I think that means that Nicholas Jackson is going to be a tough sell if Aston Villa don't perform this week and also don't perform in European football or have a tough game. So we cross that bridge when we get there. I'm still bullish on Jackson. The numbers are good and Chelsea's numbers as a team are good. So I'm not as panicked as other people might be. A Stupinan or Saliba to start, I probably would lean towards Saliba. I just don't rate Everton really. So I think Saliba is good, but obviously a Stupinan offers more of the attacking potential in that team. Craig, do you think Kabore will get decent minutes pick him over Pinnock to start. So for this game week in isolation, if I was to pick one between Pinnock away against Newcastle or Kabore away against Fulham, I don't like either, I can't lie. But I probably would assume that Kabore maybe has the attacking potential being a right wing back, left wing back in this system. Whereas Pinnock really, he does have attacking potential from set pieces, but I probably would go for Kabore and just hope that it does come through. But at the same time, Brentford's defence is a lot better, as we know. Alex, Nacho, start Gusto or Mbeumo. I'm leaning towards Gusto. To be honest with you, I couldn't sit here and tell you to bench Mbeumo. The reason being is because he's going to play 90 minutes. He's on penalties, and Brentford as a team are just looking steady as they always do. You need to know that obviously with the ownership of Mbeumo and looking at how many people have bought him in this game week in isolation, we have got how many buys for for Mbeumo? 300,000 new managers going into Mbeumo, and currently his ownership is 28%. I expect that to be around 30% by the time we get to the game week 5 deadline this morning. So I think Gusto is a good option away against Bournemouth, but realistically, Mbeumo is just an impossible player to bench right now. So I would go for Mbeumo as your starter, personally. Sell Foden or Odegaard to Son. If I had to sell one of those, I would sell Odegaard, hoping that Foden not only plays in this week, but also in their great game week 6 fixture at home against Nottingham Forest. So I would go for the Odegaard sell. But obviously, as you know, both are great options. So I'm not sitting here saying that neither are going to return. I just would prefer to sell Odegaard because the numbers for Odegaard are not looking the best. Aquasane, Awoni or Matoma. Don't really know what the question is there. I'm assuming who would I start? And realistically, with the fixture that Awoni has at home against Burnley and the way that he is so talismanic in that team, I probably would go for Awoni, which is quite controversial. I think a lot of people would go for Mitoma. And I also want to find out in the comments here. Guys, I'm going to get the poll up right now. As always, the start of the poll. I want you guys to let me know in the chat. Are you a new Son owner? So have you bought Son this week? I just want to know really, are you going to be a Son owner come game week 5 deadline? Let me know. I'm going to literally put that up for a couple of minutes because I want to get a few polls out. I really want you guys to let me know in the comment section maybe any polls you want to put up, because we have about 100 odd of us in this chat. It'll be good to get a bit of a general idea on what direction people are going in with their moves, and the same will apply to captaincy. I'll make sure to put any information on that as well. Again, if I do miss your question, I do apologise. Super chats are available if you're interested to support the channel as always, but I really don't I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying it is an option if you want to go down that route. Is Archer starting? I would be almost certain he will. They need him to start and score goals in that team. Jack saying, morning mate, start Matty Cash or Visser. Of the two, I would go for Matty Cash. I think it offers the attacking potential and also clean sheets this game week. Saka captain or Haaland. So that's a good point, and we're going to come on to this in a minute, but I probably would favour Haaland over Saka as my captain. Start one, Pinnock, Kabore or Stupinan. I don't like any of those, so for that reason, I would go for a Stupinan, as I think he offers the attacking potential that the other two don't. And again, guys, we have over 100 of us in the chat. If we can drop a like, we always try and go for 50 likes on the stream. I know it sounds a bit beggy, but it is totally free to do so, and it just shows me that you're enjoying the stream. Otherwise, I can tweak things to try and make it a better experience for you guys. So do drop a like if you are enjoying it. Salah or Haaland captain? I would go for Haaland of the two, but I think Salah is a nice differential if you want to go down that route. Ellis, I'm getting a feeling of captain Sterling. Ooh, okay. When playing Bournemouth, he hasn't lost 14 games, 14 wins. If you're on about him in general, most of those were at Man City and they beat most people, so I wouldn't read it into that personally. Is Awoni a good option considering he's playing Burnley? Yes, Awoni is a brilliant option. Awoni, or whatever you pronounce it. The one thing I would say about him, he's very steady. He's not a guy that's going to bag a hat-trick or a brace necessarily, but if Nottingham Forest is going to do well, he will do well. So I like him as a pick. Sam saying, what do you do with Onana, Turner, Baldock, Chilwell, and 0.2 million in the bank with one free transfer? Well, realistically, you're going to be starting Chilwell, Diaz and Udogie most likely in your defence. Saka, Mbeumo, Sterling, Maddison, Foden, all fantastic picks. And then, of course, you are going to be going for... you got a 3 up front, so you're going to have to bench one of your midfielders. And if you are going to be benching one of your midfielders, you're in trouble, because I would want you to start all of them. But controversially, I think Mbeumo is the one you'd have to bench. I don't think you need to make any sales in there. I think you'd absolutely just keep what you got there. Because of Burnley and Luton's double game week, should I get Foster or Morris for that upcoming game week? Morris would be the pick for me if you want to go down that route, 100%. Dawn, I have one free transfer and 1.2 million in the bank. What move do I make? I have Anana, Chilwell. Realistically, you could start Chilwell, Akanji, and Udogie in your defence and you'll be fine. Maddison, Mbeumo, Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Saka, perfectly fine midfield. I think you could roll your transfer personally. I think you could roll your transfer and maybe start Turner instead of Anana in there. Sam I Am, thank you for becoming a member. I will get that sorted for you and get you involved in all of the chats and stuff. So if you have any questions, mate, thank you so much for getting involved. That is amazing. Obviously, the membership is available to people if they want to. Sam, thank you so much for getting involved, mate. I will obviously drop you a message later on once the chat has died down a little bit, mate. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Play Nick Pope against Brentford or play Turner against Burnley. I would go for Pope every day of the week. Archer or Morris to start this week. I would go for Morris. If I was buying one, it would be Morris as well if you have the money available. Sam, good morning, mate. Son is my captain this game week. Triple Tottenham for this. Yes, I hope that does pay off for you, mate. I think Son, if you're buying Son, then I think putting the captaincy on him is a really good choice. And just looking at the poll right now, I can see 78% of people have bought Son. Sorry, let me start again. I asked the question, have you bought Son this week? 22% are saying yes, 78% are saying no. So that's the big thing right now is it seems like a lot of people are going off in different directions to buy Son. But obviously as a whole, it's a very narrow thing to think that everybody's buying Son. Because based on that poll, we can see that not everybody is going there. Bowen or Szoboszlai from Liverpool? I'd probably say neither at the time of recording, but I like the idea of Szoboszlai. But realistically, if West Ham are going to do well, Bowen is going to do well. So I probably would have Bowen over Szoboszlai, but I'm not really big on him right now just because of the fixtures. Keep Eze, I have one free transfer. I don't actually know the Palace fixtures that are coming up too well because I haven't really been entertaining them as options. So Crystal Palace in terms of fixtures right now. Why can I never find them when they're on the screens? Crystal Palace, here we go. Fixtures coming up for Palace are Villa, Fulham, Man United, Forest, Newcastle. So they're not too bad. I don't think it's an urgent sell at all for your team. No chance. But obviously, if Eze to Son's an option for you and it's a free transfer, then I would consider it, of course. Sorry guys, I'm just making sure, I'm trying not to miss the chat, but I do appreciate that we're getting quite a few today, so I am going to be trying to keep up with everything. What I think about Højlund, I would want to see some game time from Højlund first and foremost and how he integrates into that Man United team before looking to invest in him at all. Gabriel Stupinan to start. I would go for Gabriel. I think he is going to start this week. I know it's a little bit kind of, you know, who's your source sort of thing, but I think he will start. For the question I had at the start, Aston Villa, okay, yeah, I like the combination you got there. Diaby, Cash, Didier. I prefer Watkins in there, but I think that's a good combination. Stupinan or Gusto to start, I would say Gusto. For those that don't know, Reece James is not going to be available for game week 5. They think he'll be available maybe 7 or 8 game week wise. So if you're a Gusto owner, I think you definitely have game weeks 5 and 6 locked in, which is a good thing. Now, I'm looking at the time right now and I'm just going to get my team up on your screen because I have revealed my team in a previous video, but for those that don't know and maybe are tuning in because of that, here is how the team is looking. I'm going to roll my free transfer, guys. That is the plan. I'm rolling my free transfer. Gone for Turner in goal. I hate owning Turner. I hate owning Pickford, but realistically, I just can't justify making a goalkeeper transfer right now. So my team's locked in pretty much. Stupinan versus Ruben Diaz is a debate that I have had in my head, but because I've got Man United double midfield and I actually do fancy them to score a goal against Brighton, could Stupinan get attacking returns? Absolutely he could, but I'm just going to lean on the fact that I back the Man City defence being one of the best in the league. And while West Ham obviously did hurt Brighton on the counter-attack in their fixture against Brighton, I just feel like Man City are a completely different beast to any other team. And yes, they can be affected by counter-attacks, but we need to remember Pep sets up his teams basically to be completely bulletproof. And if you're trying to counter-attack against Man City, and you have Walker, Ake, Diaz, even a Gavardio in that team, that's a tough team to counter because they are physically beasts, all rapid, all 1v1 dual specialists. So I don't think West Ham are going to be able to necessarily hit Man City on the counter because City are going to completely dominate the ball. They recycle the ball so well, and they have the players available to deal with the counter-attacks. The only way I see West Ham really scoring it is from set pieces, because that's where I think Man City probably do struggle a little bit in terms of set piece dominance. So West Ham could score, but I'm going to back Ruben Diaz in that situation. Yes, I could have sold my Man United assets to bring in Son, but realistically over the next 3 or 4, I'm backing my Man United double up over Son for 1 game week. And I'm just going to accept it. Whatever happens, happens with the Son situation. If he goes off, I knew that he was an amazing option and I will just deal with it, unfortunately. And Jackson, I just don't see another forward that's raising his hand right now to say, buy me. I think he is perfectly fine as a hold this week. I do not feel like I need to sell him. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. What I want to do as well is get a bit of an idea on what everyone is doing for captaincy. So I think it's quite a big one right now. Who is your game week 5 captain? Haaland. Son is going to be a very popular one. Salah. Who else is a big captaincy this week? I'll put other, and you have to let me know in the chat if there is another one. Let me know, guys. I'm going for Haaland. I don't have another option in my team that I realistically think is going to be better than Erling Haaland this week, so that's the reason why I've gone for him. Maddison or Haaland captaincy? I would go for Haaland captaincy over Maddison. The only player that I've put above Erling Haaland as captain is going to be Son. And let me put this up on your screens here. This is the way that I'm ranking them right now. I would have Son as my number 1 captain, especially if you buy him this week. I think putting the captaincy on him is a good move. Best fixture by far of any team this game week. Differential captain, playing as a forward. The only thing I would say is Ange's press conference in the embargo section did say that Richarlison is going to be getting game time, 100% confirmed. So that suggests to me that if Spurs are winning, we're going to see one of two things. Either Son comes off around the 70-minute mark, which isn't a good thing, but 70 minutes of Son as a striker is not a bad thing either. Or Son goes out to the left and Richarlison comes on down the middle. I don't see a scenario where Richarlison goes on the left or the right. So, just a bit of a heads up there. The embargo quotes from Ange has confirmed that Richarlison will be getting minutes. And that is a little bit of a worry for Son in terms of playing the full 90 as a forward. That's the only thing I will say, but he is still number 1 for captaincy in my eyes. Haaland number 2, just obvious pick. Effective ownership. I think the fixture's still favourable. I'm not having it that West Ham are this unbelievable team. The one thing I would say is he a minutes risk due to the Champions League? We didn't really see it last season, but it could be anything this year. And Mo Salah, my 3rd pick. I think he's a brilliant differential this week. I know he's more highly owned than Son, but I think his effective ownership is going to be less than Son. So what I mean by that is, even though Son's ownership's less, I think more people put the captaincy if they own Son than putting the captaincy on Salah. Wolves 5th worth for expected goals conceded. Salah is just Mr. Consistent, and the big thing about Salah is not only is the returns consistent, but his underlying numbers are super consistent as well. It isn't a case of him doing well, but scoring from really low XG opportunities. He's still ticking over really nicely. Just the thing I would say, if I had Haaland or Son in my team, I would put them above Salah, just simply put. Right, let's try and rattle through some of these questions again. If I am not getting to your question and you're desperate, you can always fire at the super chat, but I am not obviously saying you have to do that. It is just an option for you guys. I'm just trying to set this up a minute here. Sorry guys, I am just trying to find this. Cool, right, let's keep going. Bench boost on Nana, Stupinan, Gusto and Rodri. Absolutely not, Mike. I would not be bench boosting with that. Play Gusto or Stupinan. I definitely would play Gusto now that Reece James isn't confirmed fit. Diaz or Henry to start. I would lean towards Diaz. Should I transfer in Maddison for Saka? No, I probably would keep Saka. I think if it was a situation of selling Saka for Son, then I would consider it. Start Isak. If you have Isak, yes, I would start him. But I am worried for him long term in terms of his minutes. That's the one risk that I would say. Give me 2 seconds. Just putting up YouTube. I'm just putting up my Twitter feed a minute just to see if we get a situation where any news pops out. I can obviously inform you guys on here. Cool. We're good. We're good. Sorry, guys. I'm just making sure I'm caught up here. Right. Where else are we, guys? Just trying to keep up with the chat. Gabriel or Stupinan, I would go for Gabriel and pray that he starts because I think the Everton fixture is a good fixture. A Stupinan and Gusto, Maddison or Haaland captaincy. You can see on the top 3 here that I would have Haaland over Maddison. It's probably worth noting I would have Maddison as 3rd on this list alongside Salah. It depends who you have available to you. When is the ideal time to wildcard and when does it renew? So the wildcard will renew in the second half of the season. I believe it's game week 17 or 18. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But what I would say as well is wildcard is completely team dependent. Some managers may look at their team and think, I'm ready to pull the trigger, and that is absolutely fine. For others, a place that people are talking about is game week 9. Between game week 8 and 9, we have the international break. We'll have 8 game weeks worth of information to understand which players are good and which teams are good to invest in. And also as well, it's worth noting that Liverpool's fixture swing is amazing around that period. So it'll be a really easy way for you to triple up on their assets over that period. So that is another route that you can consider as well if you want to go down that direction. Again, please do let me know in the captaincy vote who you are going for. 71% on Haaland, 18% on Son, 4% on Salah, and 7% on other. Start cash or Superman cash every day of the week. I think cash is a really nice differential this week if you want to go down that route. I'll try not to duplicate any questions. Will Alvarez start? Okay, so it's worth noting, I don't know if we are going to get any sort of news in regards to Man City team leaks, but they are the 3 p.m. kickoff today. It hasn't been unheard of that we wouldn't get any Man City team news. Now, again, keep an eye on some of the big accounts on Twitter, like Let's Talk FPL, those sort of people, because if there is to be a Man City team leak, it would be from those sorts of people. So it isn't out of the realms of possibility of us getting those information, that sort of information. Sorry, I was just checking this out. Right, okay. What we got? Is a Superman set to start? I don't know, unfortunately. I think with the situation with a Superman, we're in a position right now where I think we are just going to assume that Gabriel is going to start because of the injuries to Thomas Partey and, of course, the injuries that they have to Timber, etc. Guys, I'm sorry to be an absolute pain. I know it's a little bit cheeky. What I've had to do is put the subscriber only mode on just because I promised you guys I was going to answer all of your questions, and it's a little bit busy than I thought. We usually only have about 50 people on the stream. We have 160, so I'm sorry to be like one of those cheesy guys, but just in order for me to kind of like make sure I can actually answer everything, I have had to put subscriber mode on. Honestly, it's totally free. You just have to click subscribe, which would be amazing if you can be a subscriber, but I just had to put that mode on for a minute. I'm so sorry. I know it's a little bit corny, but hopefully you guys can understand on that situation. Right, let's get back to the questions. Start Sanchez or Turner. Ooh, that's the big one. That's the real tough one because Sanchez away against Bournemouth isn't an amazing fixture. I think Bournemouth are actually good offensively, but Turner has the fixture, but in a worse defence. Realistically, I'm probably going to say, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm going to back my boy and go Sanchez. I'm going to say Sanchez. Hopefully those that are asking about captaincy questions kind of know the answer in regards to the screen here. Start cash or Superman cash. Would I bring in Diaby? I think Diaby is a really nice differential if you want to go down that route. So I would not be against anybody going for Diaby in their teams. I think he's one of those that not a lot of people are going to go to because naturally people are more tempted by the glamorous options at Spurs, for example. But looking at Aston Villa's fixtures coming up, just to give you a bit of an idea, they have got... Sorry, guys, you won't be able to see this on your screens. Palace, Chelsea, Brighton, Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Forest, Fulham. Unbelievable fixtures. If you're a cash owner, this is looking good. And if you want to invest in Aston Villa, I mean, I'm looking at this thinking Watkins is back on the agenda. So I think that's definitely one to consider right now. Luis Diaz or Phil Foden for the long term? I would probably go for Phil Foden. Foden for Eze, the first thing I'll ask you is, have you got Spurs coverage? I think that's more of a priority this week. Then Foden is a good option. Just remember, Pep Roulette is always a problem, unfortunately. Sam, I am saying Haaland will always be my captain. And mate, I am of the same opinion. I went for Haaland non-captain last season when he went off against Man United and it burnt my team horribly. And my overall rank, it is worth noting. Ederson risky against West Ham. I think if you own Ederson, you simply have to play him in every fixture. In order to justify paying 5.5 million for a goalie, they are basically fixture-proof assets. Now, I know Man City are conceding real sloppy goals, but realistically, if you're paying 5.5 for a goalie, he has to be your starting goalkeeper week in, week out. The only time I would probably rotate him is if, for example, he was away against Arsenal and your other goalkeeper was at home against Luton. That's the only time I would consider something like that. Jacob Williams, hope you're doing well, mate. Is Højlund a good option? And also, is benching Onana for Turner a good idea? Realistically, Højlund could be a good option, but I can't really justify that pick right now just because I've literally seen 20 minutes of him. Let's just cast our minds back to Mudryk versus Liverpool in his debut. We all thought that it was the second coming of Messi, and he has been woeful since. Don't make any assumptions based on such a game state situation with Højlund. And also in terms of benching Onana, what we've seen from Man United, I think it's logical to bench Onana against who currently are the best team attacking wise in the league in Brighton for underlying numbers. So I think that's a perfectly fine move to start Turner over Onana. Again, for those that haven't seen my team, this is my team. I'm pretty locked in. Unless we get any sort of information that comes out in the coming hour and a half, I may make some changes, but realistically, this is most likely going to be my team rolling the free transfer to give myself flexibility in game week 6 off the back of a European Cup competitions. Leo saying sell Watkins for Alvarez or Darwin. I would not be selling Watkins. I've just spoke about the fixtures for Aston Villa. I think they're fantastic. And I think Watkins plays both Europa League and Premier League. Him, for me, is a brilliant long-term hold. And I prefer him over Alvarez and Darwin in that sense. I just couldn't confidently say to you that he is definitely going to be playing week in, week out there. Buddy Hayes saying, Stark, Isak or Odegaard. So looking at the fixtures for both, obviously Odegaard away against Everton, which is a brilliant fixture, and Newcastle at home against Brentford. But obviously Newcastle have the Champions League midweek for the first time, so we do not know what Eddie Howe is going to do with his team. I think Odegaard's going to get decent minutes, but his numbers have been really poor. So I'd actually go Isak. I actually think controversially I would go Isak. TR saying, I have Chilwell, Gusto, Superman, Henry and Udogie. Who should I start? If you have Chilwell, you simply can't bench him. So I would say you have to start Chilwell. I think Udogie you have to start. And then it's a case of what kind of formation you're going for. I would probably say that maybe the Chilwell, Gusto double up alongside Udogie is the route that I would go for. And just really hope that Chelsea do turn up in that fixture. Salt saying, I have 2 free transfers, nothing in the bank. Should I get in Maddison for Foden, Jackson or Eze? But then I'd have to make another transfer or just do Watkins to Maddison. I'm not sure how Watkins to Maddison makes sense just because they're at different positions. So I'm not too sure on that one, Sod. You might have to let me know in the chat about it. Realistically, I don't love the idea of selling Foden for Maddison. I think if I had to sell any of them, it probably would be Eze to Maddison. But we know Eze's long-term fixtures are good. Leo saying sell Watkins. Covered that one off, mate. I personally wouldn't. I think Watkins is a great long-term hold. Luis Diaz or Phil Foden for the long term, I'll go Foden. Nico saying, is Pickford -4 worth it for Onana? Pickford -4 worth for Onana? No, no transfer. Do not make a transfer for a -4 for a goalie. No chance. Is benching Onana good? I think both are going to concede this week. It is worth noting, but I'm just leaning towards the one that I think has the lesser chance of conceding. So I think Turner is probably the one I would start of the two. Thoughts on Ake Shah? To start this week, I probably would just start Ake and hope that he does start realistically. But if you're really worried about the game time, then Fabian Schär is definitely going to start for Newcastle at home against Brentford, who are a tough game. But as St James's Park, I back Newcastle against most teams. So I probably would say Schär is the safe pick in terms of guaranteed minutes. But I prefer the Man City defence always against most teams. Best forward over the next 4 weeks other than Haaland? Well, what I can do here, let me share my screen a minute for you guys, and I will get it up. Give me a second. Let me expand this. Anyone that doesn't know what this is, it is the best fantasy website available in the game, and that is Fantasy Football Fix. So I've got the fixture ticket here for the next 4 game weeks. And in terms of attack difficulty, we can see Luton atop of the table. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that Luton's Carlton Morris is by far the best option available in the game? No, it's still a forward that plays for Luton. However, over the next 4, game week 6 at home against Wolves, a double in game week 7, we can't argue that they are great fixtures. So that is an option, but it depends on what kind of money budget you have available to you and what kind of player that you're looking for. Otherwise, outside of this, over the next 4 game weeks, I can't be touching a Burnley, Fulham or Everton forward, or Spurs, because Richarlison is not an option. Newcastle, for me, isn't an option because I don't know whether Wilson or Isak will play in the Premier League. Again, one of those will probably go off over this period, but which one it is, good luck guessing. And then Man United, Højlund could become an option, but you're not going to buy him this week with very little information about how the team sets up and how he adapts in the side. And Chelsea, I don't think anyone's going to buy Nicholas Jackson. So what I'm kind of trying to conclude here is I don't think many forwards are good this week. And I think the question is, what is your forward right now? And is he really a desperate sell? Because a lot of the time, I don't think it is. A lot of us just want to make a transfer for the sake of a transfer. And that is the main reason. Should I sell Trent because of his injury, and if so, for who? Yes, Spurs fan, you're in a tricky spot right now. For those that don't know, Trent is ruled out for game week 5 and potentially game week 6, and it's a lot of money tied up in your team, obviously, if you're wanting to keep hold of him, and he doesn't even play for the next 2. I probably would say to you, if you have your wildcard available still, I would sell Trent, and I would be looking maybe to go to a Kieran Trippier. Go to 6.5 Trippier. I think that's the best investment for your team. Christ, I sounded like Ange then, with my throat. Onana or Flecken to start? That's a tricky one there because I expect both to concede. But I probably would go for Flecken just because I rate the Brighton attack so highly. I expect them to score against Man United. Jacob saying roll the transfer this week. I will be rolling my transfer this week, and I do think it is a good move for a lot of FPL managers out there. Just to give you an idea on how my team is looking for this game week. And again, for those that don't know, the Fantasy Football Fix app that incorporates within the fantasy website is the best thing since sliced bread. Just not many people know about it. It's a Google Chrome extension called FPL Plus. Go check it out. You do need a Fantasy Football Fix account, but it's free to set up, and it basically builds a draft in here. So this is basically a rolling game week draft. This is how my team is going to look for this game week, as you can see on your screens. But I can simply click next, and it will show you what my game week 6 team is going to look like. And that is how we are looking for game week 6. I'll have 2 free transfers available, and I have a bit more flexibility. Now, the starting 11 looks really good, but as you can see, the goalkeeper department is looking worse and worse by the minute. So I could even use one of my free transfers in game week 6 to sell a goalkeeper to get the one that I want. And also, if I want to move away from one of these midfielders, I also can do so if stuff emerges midweek in the European Cup competitions. For me, I think rolling the transfers that give me flexibility in game week 6 is going to be the best move for my team personally. Start Chilwell, Udogie or Saliba. Well, Udogie has to start in your team. Like, you just have to start Udogie at home against Sheffield United. So I probably would rank those as Udogie 1, Chilwell 2, Saliba 3. Enzo or Soboslai, neither. I think neither. If I had to pick one, it would be Enzo just because he's the cheaper option. I would keep Watkins 100% for those that are considering. I've already got one free transfer to knee-jerk on Son by removing Saka, Sterling or Roll. For me, I think I would Roll. If I had to sell one of the two, I probably would sell Sterling. I'm just not as bullish on Sterling as others. But end of the day, you know that both could do well this game week. Sell Rashford for Son. I'm not huge on it. I'm not doing it myself, and that probably answers the question for you. But again, it's all about how you kind of value the Man United attack. Some don't view it very highly. I think they are still a decent attack, and I think the introduction of Højlund, while I don't actually know how Højlund's going to do, I think it will improve the players around him. Just simply having a player that can run the channels and stretch teams. Martial literally couldn't do that. But again, the reason why I understand why people want to sell him is because do we even know if Højlund's game and the way that he plays is actually a beneficial thing for the other players around him? We don't know that right now, so it is worth considering that. So guys, I was trying to get to all of the questions right now. Again, for those who don't know, I have put subscriber mode on only just because the comments were getting too hard to keep up with. It is totally free to subscribe. You don't have to pay anything. It'd be amazing to have you on board this season as well. I've been aiming for 10k before the Game Week 5 deadline. We got less than 2 hours to get like just over 100 subscribers. I mean, if we could get there, it would be incredible, but I really do doubt it just because it is such a quick turnaround until that deadline. So if you could consider being a subscriber, it would be amazing to have you on board this season. I'm trying to do daily videos. Hopefully you are enjoying them so far. Right. When is the right time to buy Son? Realistically, the right time to buy Son is now because of the home fixture against Sheffield United. But of course, 6 and 7 doesn't look the best away against Arsenal and at home against Liverpool. Now, some people think Liverpool defensively are frail, and I can get that narrative, but away against Arsenal, some are saying it's North London derby, there'll be loads of goals. There could be, but realistically, it is still a damn tough fixture for Spurs. And then in game week 8, they're away against Luton. So I think the time to buy is now. It's just whether you can go through the period of game weeks 6 and 7 with those tough fixtures. Yes, I am rolling my transfer that anyone is asking, unless we get any late news. Thoughts on Ake to Shah? I don't love it, but you are getting investment in a Newcastle defence, which looks quite good going forward, so I'm not against it. The one thing I would say to you is Botman did train this week, and at 0.5 million less, it sounds like Botman could be available for this week, but I get it. If you want to have guaranteed minutes, then Shah is the route you should go for. Matoma to Son or João Pedro to Watkins. Whew, I don't think you can ignore Son this week if you can get there with a free transfer. So Matoma to Son feels like a good move, but I understand with your situation, João Pedro is a bit of an issue for your team. I think João Pedro to Watkins does kind of just tick a box in terms of having a guaranteed starter, mate. So I think for a 1 week punt, Son is the answer. For long-term kind of planning, Watkins is the move for João Pedro, and I think you will benefit more from that going forward. And we have to remember, game week 6, Brighton at home against Bournemouth. It's a fantastic fixture to still have Matoma in your team. Tusted is saying, Alvarez, Núñez, Haaland, is it safe to start with these three? Any rotation risk? Unfortunately, there's always rotation risk when you buy players like this. But what I would say to you is, I think they're all perfectly fine to start this week. And probably the thing I would say is, it's almost impossible to not start any of those this week. I think you just have to because of the profile of those sorts of players. Best Watkins replacement if he doesn't perform this game week? I think, honestly, going down to Carlton Morris would be a really good move for you. You keep Watkins for this week at home against Crystal Palace, which is a great fixture. If he doesn't do well and you personally feel like you have to sell him, go into Carlton Morris with Wolves at home and then a double in game week 7 is honestly a viable strategy, especially if you still have the wildcard available to you. Should I buy Son to Martinelli or just roll the transfer? Please answer, mate. If you're in a position where you have Saka as well in your team, then I would be tempted to do Martinelli to Son because I don't like the Arsenal double up midfield going forward because of the fixtures. Even though I really rate Arsenal as a team, I think that's a really good opportunity to get on the Son punt. But you need to understand that fixtures game week 6 and 7 are not amazing for Son, so you need to understand how you value him longer term. Should I transfer in Maddison for Saka? Not as big on that one personally. Sell Martinelli for Maddison. Again, not as huge on that one. Start Botman or Stupinan. I probably will start Botman and just hope that he does start. I think Botman either starts or he gets 0 minutes because he's a centre-back and they're not really going to bring him off the bench, I don't think. Callie's saying, should I buy Morris this week? I have a wild card. Depends who you're selling, Callie. Depends who you're selling on that one. Just try not to duplicate any of the questions that have been asked. Start Saliba or Gavardiol. Realistically, are the two. I think that both are not tricky fixtures, but both are against very similar rated teams from an attack perspective. West Ham slightly better. So for that reason, I would go for Saliba, just because I know he is definitely going to start for Arsenal, whereas Gavardiol does have that slight risk of not starting for them, which I think is enough to justify going for Saliba. For those that are asking, Matty Cash is a brilliant pick this week, 100%. Start Johnson or Turner? Probably go Turner. I would go Turner. Sell Eze for Diaby. I already have Watkins. For this week in isolation, it could be a good move, but I'll just keep Eze personally this week. I don't feel that is justified as a transfer personally. Bruno to Son, it depends. I'm going to say basically the answer to Bruno to Son is completely dependent on how you view the Man United attack. For me, I'll explain what I'm doing. I have double Man United midfield. I have Maddison. This is my team on the screen here. I personally am not going to do Bruno or Rashford to Son. The reason being, the main reason being is this. Over the next 4, I prefer Man United, or over the next 3, for example, and knowing in game week 8, with a strategy of wildcard in game week 9, I could then sell a Man United option in game week 8 to Son for a 1-week punt. Now, in game week 8, for example, Man United are at home against Brentford, whereas Spurs are away against Luton. So what I currently have planned is keeping Fernandes and Rashford for game weeks 5, 6, and 7, and then come game week 8, realistically, away against Luton, that'll be my opportunity then to sell one of those Man United players to Son in that week. I think that's the route I want to go for personally. But is Son the best option this week? Absolutely. It's just how you view transfers and how much you prioritise rolling your transfer this week. For my team, what I could gain from rolling my transfer this week is better than that of making the Son move in my personal team. Raul Jimenez a shout. I can't get behind that one myself personally. And I've realised I haven't got a poll in the chat. Let me just quickly get a poll. Let me end the one we got, because end of the day, basically everyone is captaining Haaland. And if they're not captaining Haaland, then they are going for Son because they brought him in. I just want to put in the chat in the poll here to get a bit of an idea. Have you... what am I trying to say? I'm trying to basically say, have you... I just want to get an idea of, are you on the game week 5 wildcard? I'm going to put yes or no, because some people obviously have been going on the wildcard this game week. So it'd be interesting to know what the percentage is of people who are currently wildcarding this week. Should I transfer in Maddison for Saka? I'm not huge on it myself. I think if it was Son, then it's a different question, because he's playing as a forward in that team, and that makes it very, very appealing then. Do I think Maddison's a good long-term hold? Absolutely, though. No denying that. Best defender to get in? It's a very broad question. I think Newcastle are a good investment, but I am a little bit a little bit worried about the introduction of the Champions League in their schedule and how thin they are from a defensive coverage perspective. So I would just be a little bit worried or hesitant about Newcastle, but they are a good investment. It is worth noting. I'm just looking at the fixtures right now. Outside of that, there's not loads of defences that I love the look of. So it would be interesting to know who you maybe are selling for a defender this week, because Matty Cash will probably be right up there alongside it as the best pick for the long term. Play Gusto or Archer? I would go for Gusto myself and back the Chelsea defence, hopefully. Pedro to Jesus, Awoni or Watkins. I would love to say Jesus right now, but I honestly just don't know what Arteta's going to do with Gabriel Jesus. Is he going to give him some game time this week in preparation for their tough game week 6 fixture and obviously Champions League midweek? I just don't really know the answer to that one. So because of that, even though I would love to say Jesus, I think it's a little bit of a risk. The one name I would throw in the hat for you is Luton's Carlton Morris. Maybe that is a consideration as well. He is a good pick in regards to Carlton Morris is a good pick in terms of 6 and 7. I just don't know whether you want to move early on him. Other ones that you picked, obviously I am going to lean towards Watkins if you have the budget available to go there, because long term he looks good and Villa just look generally good team. Start Botman or Gabriel. I probably would start Botman, hoping that he plays with the thought of he probably either starts for Newcastle or he gets 0 minutes, because I just don't really see him being an impact sub off the bench, for example. Sam, see you later, buddy. Hope you have a good weekend. Odegaard to Rashford or Son, I have Maddison. Odegaard to Son is absolutely the route you have to go for if you are planning on selling him this week. Start Ake or Stupinan. I probably would say Ake because I back their defence this game week. But if you are worried about the minutes of Ake, then a Stupinan is just the sensible move. Yes, he probably won't keep a clean sheet, but he offers attacking potential. Luis Diaz or Phil Foden for long term, it'll be Phil Foden, absolutely. What are your opinions on Lars Foster? Not really someone on my radar right now, it's worth noting. What 6.5 to 9 million midfielder would you get for this week? Only I have Son, Maddison, and Mbeumo and Sterling. So you already have those players. So for this game week in isolation, if you were just doubling down, I mean, I think Diaby at Aston Villa is quite a nice 1 week punt if you want to go there at home against Crystal Palace. So I would consider that one. Eze's still a good pickup. Eze's fixtures coming forward. Villa, Fulham, United, Nottingham Forest. I think they're really nice fixtures as well. A Stupinan or Henry. I probably would go for a Stupinan, to be honest with you. I probably would go for a Stupinan to start of those. Bench Trippier or Mbeumo? Honestly, neither. Who are you starting ahead of those two? If I had to start one, though, it probably would be Trippier and just back the Newcastle defence and hopefully an attacker return from Trippier. Do I captain Salah or Haaland this week? So based on captaincy, this is how I'm ranked right now. I do have Haaland ahead of Salah, but Son is my number 1 pick. I'd probably have Maddison as 4th on this list. I actually would rather go for Salah ahead of Maddison because, end of the day, Maddison is probably not on penalties, whereas the 3 on your screen here are their respective penalty takers. And that's a big factor when we are looking at game week captains. For those asking, no, I am not planning on having Son this game week. I know it is a major issue and I could be burnt by it, but I just view the free transfer available to me in game week 6 being more of a benefit than not. Bench who? Awoni, Foden, Rashford or Luis Diaz? Please and thank you. Parker, I wouldn't want to bench any of those players right now. Honestly, mate, it probably would have to be Awoni just because he isn't playing in a top team. But the problem with that is if Forest score goals, Awoni's literally always directly involved in them. But the answer would be Awoni, but you know that you are going to get burnt in some way with those players. Magic, hey Nacho, what do you think about selling the Stupinan next week for Shah? No, because the Stupinan will be at home against Bournemouth and you are 100% going to want him that week. Gavin, yes. If I had Son this week, I would captain him. Now, I get it. I'm one of those that got burnt by Haaland last season when I went against him from a captain perspective. But I just think this game week's too good to ignore to not put the captaincy on Son. So the way I view it is, if you already have Son, I'd put the captaincy on him. If you're buying him this week, I definitely would put the captaincy on him. I just think sometimes you do have to swing against Erling Haaland. Yes, it is a risk. We all know that. But I think Son is just the man to go for this week in terms of captaincy. You've got to go for it. Keep Watkins or transfer in Jackson. Keep Watkins 100%. 100% Watkins. He's looking great this week. Matoma for Mbeumo. Yes, I don't mind that move. I think Mbeumo is still a great long-term hold. Obviously, no European football as well, so that's a great thing for Brentford in general. Best 4.5 million goalkeeper. I think Leno is good if you rotate him with Areola at West Ham. I also think Flecken at Brentford is a good long-term hold for your team. Eze to Son, I really like Eze as a pick. But if you are really wanting to own Son, then yeah, I don't mind the move at all. Because in this game week in isolation, I think Son is one of the best players in the game. The one thing I would say to you is, long term, we need to understand Eze, Fulham in game week 6, Forest in game week 8. Really good long-term fixtures. Ro, thank you so much for subbing. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, for those that don't know, I have put sub-only chat for the last bit of this live stream. We're going to be wrapping it up in a minute. So if you do have any questions, please do fire them away in the chat. We are around 80 subscribers short of 10k. Like, honestly, it'd be so sick if we hit 10k on the stream. But realistically, I imagine most of you that are tuned in right now are probably already subscribers. So I get it in terms of we probably won't hit the 10k. But it would be sick if you could share this stream to people who may be interested in watching it for some last minute advice. Please do. We are trying to hit 10k before that game week 5 deadline. And it would be a pretty sick achievement if we could do so. Who starts? No, I'm trying to cover these ones off a minute. I'm looking to sell Bowen and bring in Foden or Bremo. Should I bring my transfer or sell now? I'm not hugely bullish on Foden or Bremo as an asset this week. So I probably would just keep Bowen most likely and just roll your transfer. But, I mean, Foden is a great pick, obviously. It's just I'm not huge on it this week. Like, do I see him going mega? Probably not. I've lost the chat a little bit. Hang on. Samuel, I'm saying I love Pep, but his roulette hurts. I've took a -4 to go from Ake to Diaz. Hopefully that pays off for you, mate. Fingers crossed. Like I said, Sam, I will get you involved in the member stuff after this stream, if that's okay. What do you think about selling a stupid ad next week for sure? I've covered that one off. Final decision on Haaland and Salah. I would go for Haaland, captaincy myself. Best transfer for Jackson, I have 8 million. I would keep him this week. That's the way I'm viewing it. I'm keeping him myself. He's in my team. I don't think you need to sell him personally. I think he's perfectly fine. Brozier is not available for this game week, which means Jackson's minutes are pretty much locked in. So for that very reason, I would keep Jackson for sure. Start a Stupinan or Antonio? Don't really know on that one. That is a tricky one. I probably would say Stupinan. Just don't really back Antonio as an asset personally. Junto, I hope you're doing well. My team, Turner, Chilwell, Saliba, Udogie, Rashford, 1 free transfer, 1.9 bet. Should I roll or what would you recommend? So, I mean, defense looks great. Midfield looks great. Literally, mate, the only thing I would say to you is, would you want to do Sterling to Son? That's the only thing I would say to you because you don't have any Spurs coverage, and I'm a little bit worried about that. So a move that you could do if you wanted was Sterling to Son and get that coverage, but that's going to be dependent on what kind of strategy you were looking to make. Who do I play in Buemo or Diaz? That's an incredibly tough one. Sometimes I would go for the upside chaser and I would go for Buemo personally of that. Because he's on penalties. Brentford could be crap, but they get a last minute penalty and Buemo scores and racks up bonus point goal. I'd probably go for Buemo, but it's tough between those two. Who would you bench? Just Stupinan, Rico Henry or Mbeumo? Well, I would definitely play Mbeumo over Rico Henry. And then I would probably play Mbeumo over Stupinan. So the way I'd rank that would be Mbeumo 1, Stupinan 2, Rico Henry 3. Right, guys. As I mentioned, I said I was going to wrap it up at 9:30, so I am going to have to wrap up the stream. DPG saying, bro, who do I play in Mbeumo or Diaz? I would go for Mbeumo myself. I just think his ownership's really big. And if he does get that penalty or goal, then you are going to really regret not starting him. Stupinan or Saliba, I would go for Saliba over a Stupinan and just hope that Arsenal get that clean sheet. Onana out this game week or save the transfer. Hassan, I would just save the transfer. The one thing I will say is Onana is going to accumulate saves against this Brighton attack. So he could be in for a mega haul. We never know. Any information about who starts for Liverpool? Nothing right now, but we may get some news closer to the deadline, but unfortunately no news my way. Right, guys. As I said, I was going to wrap this up. We started early because I needed to finish early. There are so many fantastic streams out there. Make sure you do check out the other guys. We are 75 subscribers short of 10k. If you're not a subscriber right now and you were considering being one, it would be amazing to have you on board. As I said, we've got the sub-only chat. It would be so sick to get us close to 10k before the deadline, but I appreciate that it is a long way to go. So what I'm going to say is this. Thank you so much for tuning into this live stream, guys. I really hope it has provided some value to you. There are loads of other brilliant content creators out there, so make sure you do jump on. Go check out their work. I am now going to be going live on TikTok for the next hour. So if you are interested, you have other questions, go check that out, and I'll be over on there for the next hour. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I am rolling my free transfer, and I'll be going with this team. Take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.